Hi, this short clip will be a quick overview of the Battle of the Marne and how it created the Western Front. So we've already talked together a few weeks ago about the Schlieffen Plan, and we're just going to quickly touch base with this one again because it actually helps us understand how the Western Front was set up. So if we have a look at this clip here, we can see that this here is the intended route of the Schlieffen Plan. And the red lines are the route that the German army actually took. Now we can see this blue line here is the British and French armies. And here is actually where the Battle of the Marne occurred. On this map you can also take a note of this black line here, which shows us the line of trenches, which actually became the Western Front. And this was dug after the Battle of the Marne. So just to quickly backtrack to make sure you all remember what the Schlieffen Plan actually was. It was a plan that was made up to knock France out of the war within 6 weeks. So this was so that Germany was trying to avoid having to fight a war on two fronts. German troops would march through Belgium into northern France and they would encircle Paris, which is what we can see here. Through Belgium and encircle Paris. Once France was beaten, German troops would be sent to fight Russia in Eastern Europe. And to begin, things went pretty well for the Germans. Powerful guns destroyed the Belgian forts and they allowed the German infantry and cavalry to advance rapidly. The Belgians fought really strongly, but they just weren't any match for the strength of the German army. On the 22nd of August 1914, the BEF, or the British Expeditionary Force, arrived at Mons in Belgium. So they were an army of about 100,000 men, and they managed to delay the German army, but then they were forced to retreat. So this is now where we're getting into the Battle of the Marne, which, if you take note of this, the Battle of the Marne occurred between the 5th and the 9th of September in 1914. So the German army had been covering about 50 kilometres a day and it was getting really, really tired. So it had also lost around 100,000 men who'd been sent to fight the Russians on the Eastern Front. So it's now that we start to understand why the Germans changed their plan, the Schlieffen Plan, from the intended route to what actually happened. So instead of sweeping westwards around Paris, they decided to swing to the east, which is what happened here. So the British and the French gathered their forces together here along the River Marne and decided to take a stand against the Germans. Over 4,000 French reinforcements were rushed to the battlefield from a taxi, actually, from Paris. So the battle lasted for 5 days and it ended with the exhausted Germans being pushed back 60 kilometres back to here. As you can see, that's where the trench line was. So the Allies actually called this victory the Miracle of the Marne. Paris had been saved from capture and German hopes of beating France quickly lay in ruins. The Battle of the Marne was actually a turning point in the war. So up till now, the war had been one of movement. Both sides had realised that their modern guns were so accurate and powerful that they would now have to dig in and fight a defensive war. So it was impossible for infantry and cavalry to move across the open countryside without being shot down. So this is why both sides dug a line of trenches from the English Channel to right down here and further on to the Swiss border. And this is what we call the Western Front. The war had reached a stalemate.